Right. This recipe is a bull curry. Now, my history is Anglo-Indian, French and European heritage, Scottish, German, Dutch, a complete mix. Left India after partition due to racism, I suppose you'd call it. Being mixed race, we came to the United Kingdom about 1950. And my relationship with my mother wasn't very good, and the only thing I've ever had from the family now is 4 cookbooks of this. This is one of them. One's my mother's handwriting, and one is another old one written by a book which has been written by a relative, purportedly. It reflects the time. There's household hints here telling you how to choose mutton, for instance, and how to use an open fire. And also, it's designed really, in those days, of course, it was really women that were meant to be using this cookbook. For instance, there, the art of being a good hostess. You try and look like a million, it says here, put a festive dress or sari on. Then they say, never sit down with an anxious or disturbed mind to eat. Appointments and have all the glassware sparkling, decorations there, music, say what it is on your invitation, and at home dinner, ladies only stand for ladies and not for gents. Gentlemen rise on being greeted by ladies, and so there's an etiquette of what to do, and a table etiquette, how to use your napkin. Sherry's taken with soup. Okay, it's broken up quite interesting. There's buns. I'll go to the menu. The book's falling to bits. I'd love to have it salvaged somehow, but it's so delicate. It's got bread and buns. It's got cakes, biscuits, puddings, blancmange, honey preparations, jams and jellies, creams, halvas, ladoos, which are of course Indian sweets, jalebis, pickles, toffees, sweets, lemon candy. Then it comes to the main meals, which are a bull curry, which I'm going to be doing. I'll be doing bull curry A today. Never done it before. We do have an Anglo-Indian family recipe for bull curry, which may be on my YouTube channel. I think it might be. Lambs, Scotch stew, pigeon curry, fowl or duck pido, liver preparation, and then there's various fish, molies, and of course some of the fish do vary a lot. There's something called bitter koi, which somebody could probably let me know what that actually is. And then there's various vegetable curries, egg preparations, wheat flour, and then we come to the sauces: onion sauces, white sauces, fish sauces. Now the French have, I think it's 5 mother sauces, of which one is white, I know, one's brown. It seemed to have got, I think there's 1, 2, 3, probably 3 sauces here: white fish, white sauce, and onion sauce. Anyway, there we go, and we'll see how it goes. Right, I've just minced in there, and I will be completing it. About 2 inches of ginger, 2 or 3 large garlic pieces, and in there I'll be mincing up according to the recipe, and I'm going to follow the recipe as much as I can. 2 onions, and it does say in the recipe that I should broil, whatever that means, coriander, which is a tablespoon, could be coriander seed, I'm not sure, and dried chillies, and then grind them to a smooth paste. Now I think that I can use the modern equivalent of ground coriander, and I think I can use chilli powder, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm quite happy to hear from other people that know more about the word broiling and in a dry pan, whatever that means. Anyway, I'll carry on doing that, and we'll carry on again. This particular, which is sort of like the bull curry A refers to these onions, which I've got to be fried with those when I make bulls. So I'm going to put them in the Remoska Tria, which I'm using. Which is sold by Lakeland. And I'll show you a bit more about that in a minute. Now I did notice that the second recipe, which I'll go back here, it refers to ginger being added to water when you come to boil it later on, curry leaves, ghee, and cinnamon. And I've got a meatball recipe in my family recipe, another one, which talks about cloves and things. So I know that I'm going to fry these gently with onion, and then I've got to add water. I think what I'm going to do is also vary the recipe by adding a small stick of cinnamon and a couple of sticks of cloves. So say 5 or 6 cloves into the liquid in which it will be cooked, and see how that goes. Can't do any harm. Also, the second recipe refers to salt, the first one doesn't, so they clearly need to season. So I'm going to season this before I do it. Yes, they refer to a tablespoon of coriander, which you should broil in a dry pan and then ground to fine paste. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reckon that a tablespoon of coriander will ground down to 1 to 3 teaspoons of ground coriander. So the seeds will ground down. A tablespoon of seeds should ground to about that. And then what I've done with the chillies, 6 dry red chillies ground down, I reckon will be equivalent to 2 teaspoons of chili powder, which means it's quite hot. I'll put the original recipe below, but also my interpretation of it. So right, I'm going to start rolling those into balls, and I'll come back to you when I've done so. Boy, I forgot about the egg. My other meatball curry doesn't have egg. It's got mint in it and Worcester sauce. You'll probably find that on my YouTube channel. Anyway, this is the recipe they're suggesting. I've got to say, I do know my meatballs, and I think this is going to be hard to stay in balls. The constituency feels very loose. There's an odd onion. So we'll have to see how that goes. There's another odd onion, we don't need them. And they say this should be rolled into the size of ping pong balls, table tennis balls. So maybe that'll do better. I added the pepper and I added salt to it, about a teaspoon of each, and we'll see how it goes. Right, let me go on the balls. There's the meatballs made. Now, my additions to the recipe follows from my knowledge of this following recipe, which is the B, but also my knowledge of my own recipe for meatballs. Now, the actual recipe has said it was chopped mutton, but of course we don't easily get hold of, so this is minced lamb. I've put in there a cinnamon clove, because that's going to go in and be fried with the onions. I've just put in 2 red chillies, which I'm going to break up and throw in. And I've got about 6 cloves and about 6 curry leaves. So I'm going to put that on the frying stuff, the onions. I'll go over here now. Right, there's the Remoska Tria. I've put it on a moderate heat, the onions. Most of them are sliced, apart from that one big bit you see, but most of them are sliced there. That's going to go in there and fry. It's an olive oil, but the original recipe is butter or ghee. Of course, we don't use that sort of stuff anymore. So it's going to be there. Now while I'm standing there, I'm going to take the cinnamon that goes in, that will fry, that will do the oil. There's the curry leaves and cloves, about 6 cloves. And here's the red chilli. I'll just break that up. And they say you've got to add 2 cups of water, hot water, once they've all been fried, the balls, which will be fried in here. Now, my view is that once I've fried them lightly in here with the onions, I'm going to put water so the balls are just covered. Now that will give it a gravy. I'm not altogether convinced that two cups of hot water will do a gravy. Having said that, here's the Remoska lid. Now that's the normal lid I'm going to use today because I've done this much later in the day. If I had done it much earlier, I'd use the pressure lid and cooked it at a slow temperature for longer. So that's the beauty of the Remoska. While we're at it, and I'm talking about the Remoskas, we've got a standard, and one of the nuts from the 4 screws near the handle fell into it. Now, you think that would be easy enough to do. Yes, it is. Do test your screws on the underside of your lid. We didn't, so we lost one. When we undid the handle, which is the only way of getting into it, yes, we'll screw it back, but inadvertently we broke a wire from the heating element, heating rod. And I've got to say, phoning up Remoska wasn't really that crucial. There's a new Act of Parliament going through now saying that people shouldn't be made to buy things, so everything should be, spares should be ready available. And I did point that out to him. He said he'd come back to me on talking to spares part 2 days ago. Nothing's come back. I don't want to buy another brand new one, 169 quid. So I bought a second-hand one for 25 quid, which looks good. It's missing a stand, but as I've got loads of Remoskas, I have loads of spares. I've got 3 Remoskas. This is the Tria, and I've got 2 standards. Anyway, that's coming along there nicely. I'm now going to add the meatballs. Once I've got it to like a moderate temperature, everything's warmed through. The recipe actually says fry the meatballs with the onions. That's interesting, that, because I think there's an argument for the onions first, then the meatballs, and the onions back in, simply because it gives more space in the pan. But we'll do it their recipe and see how it looks. But there's the lamb balls. They look all right. You really need to check out my recipe on for my meatball curry, done completely differently, also very tasty. Now I'm not going to get all of these in here, so we'll put them in gently. Just put it in slowly so the oil doesn't get too cold. The meatballs have got a lot of onion in them and they barely hold together. There's an egg which basically does it. You see what I mean about there? recipes. But this book was written in 1939, just before the outbreak of the war. I imagine pots were bigger, done on open fires. So it's a matter of trying to adapt what we've got to the old recipes. I can't see any reason. I mean, I'm not sure how curry. Oh dear, I broke one there. I suppose you've got to fry these gently. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the videoing now while I sort this out. Well, I've fried them for a while. I've got some boiling water that I'm going to do. I still think I'm right. Fry the onions separately, do the meatballs in oil, then add the onions back. It's also, the balls are very fragile, so I've only been able to turn them very gently. One or two, like that one's browned. Most have just, they're cooking, but they're not dark brown. Anyway, and then in goes the liquid water now. This is 2 cups. There they are, and now I'm going to cook that. It says for 30 minutes, but I'm going to do it for 40. And I'm going to put the lid on and bring it down to a simmer. And we'll see what it'll taste all right. What it looks like or not, I don't know. But anyway, it's a recipe that was in the family, what, 1940-ish. So we're talking about what, 40, 50, 60, 80, 85 years since this was last cooked, something like that. Okay, well the curry's nearly ready, but I forgot the greens. And so what I've done, I've got lady's finger, okra, topped and tailed, split in half. My own recipe really, or family recipe. Basically, teaspoon chilli powder, chilli spoon of turmeric, split in half, fried, and I've got some lemon juice at the end, and that will go with the curry. I'll show you the curry now. I'm convinced that recipe could be improved by doing the onions separately, because if you look at it, although it's cooked, it's fine. It's still very light brown. It's not fried brown like you'd expect. If it's cooked, it's edible. I mean, I prefer it darker, so I think next time, and the other recipe seems to indicate you should do that, I'm going to make the balls, but I'm going to fry the onions first with the whole spices like chili, and then I'll take them out, put them on one side, put in the meatballs, fry them, put them back, add the liquid, and I think we'll get a different result in terms of browning. But this is the recipe it says in the book, and if some of you, I'll put the original recipe and I altered it. If some of you do it and you get a better result and you've changed something and you've tried something different, let me know. And that's doing nicely. It's frying nicely. A little bit of salt, not too much. That'll do. We're having it with pita bread. I mean, looking at the curry itself, the meatballs, I think probably you could have it with rice, dal in the usual way. But I wasn't sure, so we decided to hedge our bets. And right, but as far as I'm concerned, that looks like it's about ready. Sprinkle some lemon juice in. I can either separate those or put them on the table in the frying pan. I think what I'll do is I'll just put them on the table in the frying pan. I'll turn that off now because I'm pretty sure it's done. That's ready to go to the table. Looks lovely, doesn't it? And now I'm going to take it off, and that's ready to go to the table. So everything is cooked. Nice smell.